This class will look at competitor analysis. Now, this is quite a long class, so I expect you to stop the video from time to time, make your own notes, copy out what's on the slides, and pad out the information on the slides. So you can rewind the video and wind it forwards, wind it backwards, and just generally capture the information. It's also a good idea, of course, to go online and see if you can do some research to add to the information to get a fuller picture on this very important topic. It's important because it's a central part of the strategic planning process. A business must understand its competitor or its competitors if it is to plan effectively. Now, the material, when we look at competitor analysis, the material really comes from microeconomics, and in particular the literature on oligopoly. Now, that's the subject of separate videos, so I'm not going to talk about oligopoly here, at least the theory of oligopoly in this context. So that's the subject of other videos. But just to explain what is meant by this statement, oligopoly is the study of a particular market structure, a market structure in which there are a few competitors, and each of the competitors are strategically interdependent. They are watching each other. And when a market situation arises like that, we call it oligopoly. There are a few competitors who are strategically interdependent, and it's got special problems. So it warrants a complete study in economics. A study that goes back for a couple of hundred years, to be honest, and one of the more sophisticated parts of microeconomics in the opinion of many who study the subject. And a lot of the material we've got here is based on this, because clearly studying competition amongst a few strategically interdependent competitors requires competitor analysis. So this material is based ultimately on the theory of oligopoly. However, we're not going to follow the strict guidelines set down in the study of economics in this class. We're just going to simply state what we talk about and give some general explanation as to why it's important and how it works. So we're going to start by looking at possible responses to the presence of competitors. So if a company knows it's got competitors, how does it respond to those? Well, one possible way of responding is not to respond, to ignore them. Now, this may sound a bit crazy, probably because generally it is a bit crazy. Ignoring the competitors is dangerous. The competitors are there with a purpose. They're there with their own mission. Their mission could be to increase their market share and to outcompete the other people in the market, the other businesses in the market, and gain market dominance. So ignoring them does not seem like a good strategy. So why is it here? Well, it's here because it is a possible response, and we want to be complete, or as complete as we can, in listing out the various responses. So that is one response, but it's not a very sophisticated response. In fact, it's quite a dangerous response. Second, could make assumptions about the behavior of the competitors based on past actions. The problem here is that past behavior may not be a good indicator of future behavior. Because people did certain things in the past doesn't mean they're going to do that in the future. And because businesses acted in a certain way in the past doesn't mean that they're going to implement the same strategies and the same tactics in the future. So making assumptions about behavior based on past behavior is not necessarily a good thing to do. Unfortunately, many organizations, it appears, from what's appearing in the newspapers nowadays, many organizations spy on other organizations. Many companies spy on other companies. This is both illegal and wrong. It is simply wrong, totally wrong. They are stealing ideas. It's theft. They're stealing ideas and using the ideas to gain competitive advantage. Unfortunately, with the advent of the internet and sophisticated computer networking facilities, there seems to be an international dimension to this also. People around the world are spying on companies and trying to steal ideas for commercial purposes. Again, why is it on our list? Well, it gets mentioned in the literature, so we put it in, but it is wrong, it's illegal, and it's totally bad, totally wrong. But it is a response. To find out what the competitors are doing, to conduct a good competitor analysis, spying is a possibility, albeit totally wrong. Market leadership. Well, some companies become market leaders. They're the best ones at setting the price, or they have a good track record in dealing with customers, and they become market leaders. And there are different types of market leader. For example, there's low cost. These are the most efficient producers. And the most efficient means that they are able to set competitive prices, and the other companies must follow, because they're setting such low prices, such low and highly competitive prices, that the others must follow. So they become the market leader by virtue of their efficiency and their ability to cut costs. A second type is the dominant price leader. The dominant price leader may not be the most efficient producer in the market. It may not be the low-cost producer, but it's the biggest. And because it's the biggest, the other companies allow it to lead the market. They're afraid to take it on. They're afraid to upset it. They're intimidated by it, and it's the biggest company, so the others take what's left. They allow the dominant firm to set the price and set the whole agenda for the market, and the others take what's left over. The third type is what economists sometimes call the barometric price leader. This means a company is not necessarily the most efficient or the cheapest at producing the product, and it's not the biggest, but it has got a good track record in predicting the price. And customers are happy to take the price that's set by this type of company, known as the barometric price leader. So it varies the price, and customers are quite happy, and because it gets it right more than it gets it wrong, the other companies follow its price leadership. It's not necessarily a low-cost firm, it's not a dominant firm, it's just a company that is good at setting prices. It's good at reading the mind of the customer and predicting what the customer will pay. And it's also a company that has a good track record in innovating the product. It's a company that's constantly trying to innovate and change the product, and so it's got a good track record in innovation as well. And these are possible responses to the existence of competitors. Now let's look at competitor analysis and strategic planning. Well, it helps management to understand the competitive advantages and disadvantages of the business relative to the competitors. Clearly, if management have a good idea of what the competitors are doing and what price they're setting and what plans they've got for innovation and the way they organize themselves, then it's able to, if you like, benchmark itself against them, and it knows what the advantages and disadvantages of the business is or are. So it's able to make changes to the business so as to more effectively compete with the other companies in the market. And it helps to understand the competitors' actions and likely future actions as well. So competitor analysis gives a good picture of what the competitors are thinking, both now and what they're likely to do in the future. So it's a highly desirable activity to engage in. Trying to analyze the competitor is a good exercise for management. It also helps to formulate strategies to achieve competitive advantage in the future. So knowing what the competitors are doing or thinking or working on enables the business to formulate good strategies for the future, to be able to take on the competitors. It helps in drawing up likely budgets and estimating returns on investment. Budgets are important, and budgets are what enable the activities to take place. This is what is allocated in terms of finance and resources. And they can only work out what the budgets are if they have an idea of what the competitors are planning and what the competitors are doing. So an effective competitor analysis enables the business to have more precise budgeting. Now, the steps in the competitor analysis, well, the following is a useful list to bear in mind. First of all, identify current and potential competitors. It's a fairly obvious one to do in the context of competitor analysis. Secondly, understand the threat posed by the competitors. What exactly are they up to and how do they threaten the business? List the characteristics of the competitors in terms of their strengths and weaknesses. That is part of the analysis. The competitor analysis would surely include a list of the competitors' strengths and weaknesses to get a better insight into the competitors. List the strategies, objectives and policies being pursued by the competitors. So try to work out what are the competitors up to, what are they doing, and what are their objectives. Because if the business know what these are, they're better able to compete with them. From the Art of War, a famous book on military strategy, Chinese book, it says know your enemy, and knowing the enemy here is a good idea. Knowing what the competitor is doing means effective strategies can be drawn up. Anticipate any responses by the competitors to changes in strategy. Do some sort of scenario analysis. What if the business changed its strategy in a certain way? What would the competitors do? What are they likely to do? What if the business changes strategy in a different way again? What will the competitors do? And try to anticipate the likely responses so that if the business does choose to change its strategy, it's not surprised by what the competitors do as a response. There are three categories of information that help to get competitor analysis started. And these are, first of all, recorded data. Now, the recorded data is what's published. It's published internally within the business, or it's published externally, perhaps in trade journals or in accounts or in trade associations. So they could include annual reports or product brochures or industry reports. These are published, so an insight in what the competitors are doing may be achieved or maybe picked up from this sort of information, which is published and perhaps easily easily found. Also, there's observable data. Data has to be collected and collated, but it can come from a variety of sources, from direct observation, just looking at the competitors, from interviews, from meetings, from conferences, from exhibitions. So it's observable data. It's watching the competitors and trying to collect data in that fashion. And there's also opportunistic data. This is collected from situations that occur naturally or could be contrived. Examples could be parties and functions, meeting people at parties and functions and talking, sporting events or trade shows, or even chance meetings, just meeting somebody and having a chat, but thereby collecting information. In fact, a good source of opportunistic data is contact with suppliers, customers, and even previous workers from the competitor businesses. Sometimes workers will leave a business and join a competitor because they've been offered higher salary. But of course they're also taking the secrets of the business with them. And that's why many employment contracts may have clauses built in that they're not allowed to work in a certain industry for so many years, having left the business. But these are three sources of information that can start the competitor analysis. Now this table, the one we're about to see, shows possible sources of competitor data, and it's based on the work of Davidson. So we have recorded data, observable data, and opportunistic data. Now I'm not going to go through all of these points, they're fairly self-explanatory, but for example in the recorded data, annual reports and accounts, that's a good source of information. Press releases, that's a good source of information. Newspaper articles, and so on. For observable data, well, we can observe what the price is or what the price lists are, what the price lists say for the different products. Advertising campaigns, well, these are observable, you can see them. Promotions, they can be seen. Opportunistic data, well, meeting with suppliers, trade shows, sales force meetings, seminars, conferences, and recruiting ex-employees, and so on. So we have three sources of data which enables the competitor analysis to start. It gives an insight into the competitors so that the whole process can be fired up, can be started. Now, good competitor analysis is usually derived from many sources, and this is called triangulation in research. Generally speaking, when we do research, we don't want to pick up the information from one source only. We want to look at the information from different directions. So if we're doing, let's say, research, market research, we might want to interview potential customers. But we might also want to do some research on the local economy to see what is happening to local income levels. But we also want to do a focus group. So we're picking up information from different angles. We have interviews and focus groups and published information, and we might have some questionnaires, and so we're picking up the information, and if all of the information is essentially telling us the same thing, then we have more confidence in it, and that's called triangulation. We're picking up information from different sources, and that's very important in academic research as well. So good competitor analysis, try to use a variety of sources, which we call triangulation. The more pieces of information collected, the more accurate the analysis is likely to be. So it's important to pick up from a wide variety of sources. Now, competitor information that is readily available or easily collected. Now, we're just going to go through a brief list here of the type of information that is readily available. Competitor sales and profits This is readily available. In the sense, it may not be published and easily picked up in that sense, but it can be estimated. It can be estimated quite well, and sometimes a broad statement is enough. The competitor company is doing well. It's investing, it's buying bigger premises, it's got better offices, it's doing well. So profits are increasing. So that may be a source of information. It may be that we know what the market that the competitor is working in, so we know what the sales roughly will be in that market because the company is doing so well, or it appears to be doing so well, given its appearance in the marketplace and given its reputation in the marketplace. It may have different brands, different products, but it has a main brand, and that brand may be well understood by customers in the marketplace, and market research can throw information up about this. So market research may suggest that companies have certain main brands, and that's where the main sources of their revenue is coming from. The cost structures may be estimated or collected from published accounts. It depends on if the accounts are published. It depends on the type of business. If it's a private business, a private company, then the accounts are not published. But as I said, it's still possible to get some understanding of the likely cost structure and the likely profitability of the business from the behavior of the business. If the business is running an expensive set of premises and the managers are driving large cars and it's donating quite a bit of money to local charities and sports and sponsorship and so on, the chances are it's doing well. Market shares, that may be estimated from various sources. It may be that the wholesalers or the various outlets will have figures which they are prepared to release on sales per product. It may be that some market research will indicate how much has been sold of each product as well, and some sort of estimate can be gained from market research as to how much market share products are enjoying. The organization structure, that may be worked out from press releases or from published information that the company puts out periodically. So it may be possible to work out what the structure is, who is the director for marketing, who is the director for research and development, and so on. What distribution system they're using, well, that's probably easily determined by observation. Are they using their own distribution system, or are they outsourcing it to another company? And identify the senior management. Who are the senior management, and how well are the senior management doing in terms of remuneration? What sort of lifestyles have they got? Again, it's an indicator of the performance of the business. What sort of advertising strategy has the business got? Is it advertising above the line, below the line? Above the line, is it advertising on television, in the national press? Is it below the line? Is it using low-key advertising campaigns? Is it relying on putting out advertisements locally? What cheaper advertisements, in other words? What sort of advertising and promotion tactics is it using? What's the customer profile and attitudes? And you could pick this up again from market research. What do the customers feel about the product, and what do they think about the product? And what are the customers like themselves? What income bracket are they in? What's their likely lifestyles? And so that could be picked up again from market research. Customer retention levels, and this may be picked up from, again, market research, from interviews, or ex-staff of the business, if they're allowed to work for the company. When they leave the competitor, if they're allowed to join the company, they may have information about this. They may not be allowed because of restrictions on their employment contract. Many companies, as I said earlier, don't allow employees, when they leave the company, to join competitor organizations. It's a condition on their contract. But retention levels, customer retention levels, may be gained from interviews with customers and perhaps wholesalers or someone within the supply chain. Some other organization within the supply chain may have information about customer retention levels. So there are various forms of information that can be collected, and in a variety of ways. What the business would really like to know about the competitors, well, this is the wish list to see what they would really like. Well, what they would really like is sales and profits by product, but that may not be forthcoming. In fact, none of these will be easy, or perhaps not achievable at all. The company may not be able to pick up this information. Relative cost, the costs of producing one product versus another, and that may not be possible either. Customer satisfaction and service levels. There may be a possibility of collecting that through market research, finding customers who buy the product and interviewing them. Possible. Customer retention levels, as I said earlier, difficult to determine, but again, market research might throw some light onto it. Distribution costs, difficult to say. It depends on how they distribute the product, what logistical systems they've got in place for the product, what outlets they're using, what margins they give the outlets, and if the distribution is outsourced, what sort of charges they've negotiated. That's difficult to determine. New product strategies, well, difficult to work out what the business is planning in terms of new products. It's very much an internal issue within the business, and it's very difficult to work out what competitors are doing in terms of new product plans. How does it organize its customers? How does it deal with its customers? What sort of databases does it use? What sort of marketing and follow-up does it use? What sort of contact does it have with the customers? What after-sales service does it offer precisely, and how does it manage that after-sales service? And what's the cost of the after-sales service? How effective is the advertising that it engages in? Is it highly effective, or is it marginal? How do they know? Do they have mechanisms for assessing their own advertising campaigns? What is the future business strategy? What are they planning to do in the future? This ties in with new product development. Or it could simply be investment to update existing processes, manufacturing processes perhaps. So how is it aiming to develop the manufacturing processes and reduce costs? What are the contractual terms of the key with the key suppliers? What prices are paid to the key suppliers? what discounts are negotiated, what are the terms of delivery, and what are the payment methods, and again, very difficult to find out. And finally, the terms of strategic partnerships. If other businesses are forming links with yet other businesses again, what are the terms between them and why are they doing it? What's the advantage, and what are the terms? What benefits flow from those strategic partnerships if those are developed between competitors? So these are a list of what businesses would like to know about competitors. That concludes this session, and that's all I'm going to do on competitor analysis. It's a very important topic, and it's one that needs to be treated carefully. Certainly business planning is broadly based on competitor analysis. So this is an important topic. Please make your own notes, pad them out, and be careful on how you develop this material. That concludes this session, so thank you for watching.